So the next splint I'm going to show you is called a coaptation splint, and I think the big challenge on the coaptation splint is that the patient's arm, we'll use this for a fracture of the humerus anywhere from about right here up to the shoulder. And the goal is to immobilize the bone but also keep it against the patient's side. The challenge in putting this splint on is that the patient's injured and they don't want you to move their arm. So I usually will start with the patient's arm resting at their side. We're going to want to pat it around the elbow in particular, but I'm not so concerned as we come up. And so I start at the elbow, and I'm going to wrap this carefully, making sure we've got plenty of padding around these bony prominences at the end of the arm. Once I've done that, I'll continue up, 50% overlap, until I get up to the armpit. And that's about as high as we can go right there. So now I'm going to cut a splint. And when you're thinking about splint length here, you want it to start in the armpit and you want it to go up over the shoulder. And there's usually a little excess here that will just fold over on top of itself. So that's a good length for this patient. I use a 4-inch splint material. It's really important that I trim off this edge that's sticking out. So I'm going to peel back the felt and I'm going to take off about 1/2 inch of cast material. And this is the side that's going to go up underneath the patient's armpit. So that's covered and it's soft. So I'll get this wet now. I'll wring it out, dry it with a towel. Make sure that it's stretched out and it's nice and flat, that there aren't any folds in your cast material. I'm going to bring it up underneath and rest it right here, and then I'm going to bring the rest of the splint material up. And I can kind of hold that gently. We may even have the patient hold it yet with their other arm just to lift that up. If there's slack here, if that's falling down, I'm going to pull the slack up on this side. So when I adjust that where I want it, I'm going to wrap, probably just a single ace wrap, and we're going to work it around the inside. Remember, this arm's broken, so be very careful as you bring that around. And I'm going to continue down towards the elbow, and then I'm going to wrap around this side. I'm avoiding that back side because there's a hole back there. So that's enough wrap to hold it. I'm just going to do the 1 ace wrap. Then I'm going to pull the slack out. I'm going to let this rest at the patient's side. And I'm going to pull up enough slack that I can bring it up over their shoulder. And I'm going to hold this and mold it against their shoulder. The concept of this brace is once this is set, it's going to limit the ability of the arm to come up. So we've wrapped it around, we've stabilized the fracture, and now we're going to limit arm motion by molding the splint over top of the shoulder. Once that's set, a lot of patients still don't like the swing, so we can put them in a sling and we can wrap it to their side, but a lot of patients still have discomfort, and so I'll take a 6-inch ace wrap afterward, and we'll take this 6-inch ace wrap, you can lift this good arm, and we'll bring it all the way around the patient's body. So the first one I went over, the second time around I'm actually going to go under, and I'm going to use that to wrap, and that'll help to limit the amount of motion that occurs with the patient's arm so they're not swinging as they're walking. And that's how you put on a coaptation splint.